He's too weak to stop us, my wife's family said while moving into my house. Just watch him run away, they laughed. I did leave. 72 hours later, their phones wouldn't stop ringing. I never thought I'd be sharing this story, but here I am. It started 3 months ago when my wife, Amelia, lost her job. We'd been married for 5 years, living in our modest 3-bedroom house that I'd bought before we met. Things were okay at first. We had savings, and I made enough to cover our expenses while she looked for work. Then her mother, Ellie, called just for a weekend visit. She said to help Amelia through this rough patch. I should have seen the signs when she showed up with 4 suitcases. The first red flag was so subtle I almost missed it. I came home from work to find Ellie had rearranged our living room, just making it more functional, she said, with that smile that never quite reached her eyes. Amelia seemed pleased, so I let it slide. Within a week, Ellie had taken over our kitchen. My protein shakes were replaced with her organic supplements. My meal prep containers disappeared to make room for her extensive collection of herbs and spices. You'll thank me later, she'd say, patting my cheek like I was a child. Then came the surprise visit from Amelia's brother, Anthony. He showed up one Tuesday night with a duffel bag, claiming his apartment had flooding issues. Just for a few days, bro, he said, already making himself comfortable on our couch. I noticed he didn't mention when these few days would end. The dynamic shifted dramatically after that. Suddenly, every family dinner became a strategy session about getting back on their feet. I'd walk into rooms and conversations would stop abruptly. Amelia started spending more time with them, speaking in hushed tones, and giving me these strange looks when she thought I wasn't watching. 2 weeks in, I came home to find Mia, Amelia's recently divorced sister, sitting at our dining table with her mountains of paperwork spread out. Mom thought it would be better if we all stuck together during these hard times, she explained, not even looking up. Her 3-year-old was already napping in our spare room. I tried talking to Amelia that night. This is getting out of hand, I said. She just stared at me with this disappointed expression I'd never seen before. Their family needs us, Ethan. Why are you being so selfish? The breaking point came last Thursday. I was working from home when I heard furniture being moved outside. Looking out the window, I saw a moving truck. Anthony and some guys were unloading what looked like an entire house worth of furniture. My heart stopped when I saw Ellie directing traffic like an orchestra conductor. I ran outside still in my work clothes. What's going on here? I demanded. Ellie turned to me with that same patronizing smile. Oh sweetheart, we're moving in properly. The rental house was just too expensive to keep up with everyone's situation. This is my house, I said, my voice shaking. You can't just. That's when Amelia's uncle Jeremiah stepped out of his car, legal papers in hand. Actually, he said with a smug look. We've been discussing some changes to the living arrangements. Amelia feels it would be better if the house was in both your names for security purposes. They all gathered around me, these people who'd invaded my life piece by piece. He's too weak to stop us, Ellie said to Jeremiah loud enough for me to hear. Just watch him run away, Anthony laughed, shoving past me with a box. I looked at Amelia standing there with her family, not meeting my eyes. 5 years of marriage, and suddenly I was looking at a stranger. I walked back inside past the boxes cluttering my hallway, past the family photos that were already being replaced with their own, and went straight to my office. They probably thought I was hiding, running away like they predicted. But they didn't know about the cameras I'd installed 2 weeks ago when things started feeling off. They didn't know about the recordings of their strategy sessions I'd been collecting. They had no idea I'd been documenting everything since Ellie first arrived. I made 3 phone calls that afternoon. Then I packed a bag, grabbed my important documents from the safe, and walked out the front door. As I got in my car, I could hear them laughing inside my house. See, I heard Anthony say told you he'd run. They had no idea what was coming, no idea at all. Update. Thank you all for the support on my last post. A lot has happened in the past 48 hours and I need to get this off my chest. After leaving my house that day, I checked into a nearby hotel, and started reviewing the footage from my security cameras. What I discovered made my blood run cold. The first video showed Ellie and Jeremiah in my office, late at night going through my files. His grandfather left him this house free and clear, Jeremiah was saying, no mortgage. The equity alone could support us for years. Ellie's response was chilling. Amelia says he's been talking about adding her to the deed, we just need to speed up that process. Another clip showed Anthony and Mia in the kitchen. Mom's done this before, Mia said. Remember cousin David's place? 6 months and his wife signed everything over just to get rid of us. They laughed like it was some kind of joke. But the worst was seeing Amelia, my wife, the woman I'd loved for 5 years, sitting with her mother planning how to pressure me into signing over the house. He's too nice, Amelia said. He'd do anything to make me happy, we just need to push harder. I spent that night making calls and sending emails. By morning I had meetings scheduled with 3 different attorneys. The first one took one look at my evidence and immediately started taking notes. This isn't their first time, she said, pulling up court records. Your in-laws have a pattern. They've done this to at least 2 other families. They target people with valuable properties, move in, and essentially force them out through psychological warfare. She showed me documents from a case 3 years ago, a man named David, the same cousin they'd mentioned, who had lost his house to them through similar tactics. They'd moved in, overwhelmed him, and eventually pressured his wife into divorce. The property was sold, and they disappeared with the proceeds. While I was processing this, my phone started blowing up. Amelia had discovered I'd withdrawn half our joint savings money I'd earned and saved before we were married. The messages ranged from pleading to threatening. Baby, please come home, we can talk about this. Mom says you're being ridiculous, if you don't come back, we'll call the police. You're breaking my heart. Then came the voicemails from Ellie. You're making a big mistake. Ethan, Jeremiah says abandonment is grounds for divorce in our state. Think carefully about your next move. They didn't know I was already 10 steps ahead. I had documentation of every penny I'd spent on that house, proof it was purchased before marriage, records of all my grandfather's paperwork, and now, thanks to their carelessness, video evidence of their entire scheme. The next revelation came from my neighbor. She sent me security footage from her doorbell camera, showing Anthony, and some friends, moving what looked like my computer equipment, into their van at 3 a.m. I immediately filed a police report. Then I got a text from an unknown number. It was David, the cousin they'd scammed. I heard they're at it again, he wrote. I have everything documented from what they did to me. Let me know if you need it. Yesterday morning, I received an email from Jeremiah. A draft of divorce papers with terms that would give Amelia 50% of everything, including my grandfather's house. They really thought I would just roll over and accept this. What happened next still feels surreal. I was sitting in my hotel room reviewing documents with my attorney when the hotel's front desk called. Amelia was in the lobby demanding to know my room number. They'd already turned her away twice. I watched on the hotel's security feed as she stood there crying, telling anyone who would listen about her mentally unstable husband, who had abandoned her, and her poor family, the same woman who just days ago I'd watched on camera plotting to take everything from me. The desk clerk, bless her heart, simply said, "Ma'am, if you don't leave, we'll have to call security." Amelia left, but not before shouting that I would regret this. She had no idea what was coming. While she was putting on that show in the lobby, my attorney was filing papers with the court, multiple papers. Tomorrow morning, several people are going to receive some very official documents. I've been advised not to say more right now, but let's just say Ellie's smug smile isn't going to last much longer. Update 2. I'll start with what happened this morning at exactly 9 a.m. 5 separate process servers showed up at my house, each had different papers to deliver. The security cameras caught everything. Ellie opened the door first, coffee cup in hand and still wearing her robe. Her face dropped as the first server asked if she was Ellie. By the time the fifth one arrived, she was practically screaming for Jeremiah. Here's what they received. An emergency eviction notice for all of them, cease and desist orders, an individually named restraining order for Anthony after the computer theft, intent to sue for harassment and attempted property theft, divorce papers for Amelia. But let me back up and explain how we got here. Remember David, the cousin they'd scammed before? Turns out he'd been gathering evidence against them for years. 3 days ago, he drove 6 hours to meet me and my attorney, bringing boxes of documents showing their pattern. The similarities were eerie. They'd done this to 4 other families, not just 2 like we initially thought, always the same playbook. Target someone with valuable property, move in gradually, isolate them from friends, then pressure them until they break. David's documentation included bank records, showing how they'd funneled money from previous properties, emails discussing their strategies, and even recordings of Ellie bragging about their successes at family gatherings. They almost got my kids, David told me, hand shaking as he showed me photos of his old house. My wife chose them over me, don't let them win again. The real breakthrough came when we discovered Jeremiah's involvement went deeper than just being their family attorney. He'd been taking cuts from every property they'd scammed, hiding the money through a series of shell companies. Yesterday, while they thought I was hiding in my hotel, I was actually meeting with investigators. Turns out the authorities had been building a case against them for months. They just needed someone willing to come forward with solid evidence. The cameras in my house caught everything. Ellie going through my mail, Anthony stealing my equipment, Mia forging my signature on documents, not very well, I might add, every conversation plotting to take my house, all recorded in high definition. But the most damning evidence came from Amelia herself. 2 nights ago she sent me a long email, probably thinking it would help her case. Instead, she accidentally confessed to the entire plot. You should have just added me to the deed like we planned. Mom knows what she's doing. She's helped so many family members secure their futures this way. If you just cooperated, everyone would be happy. It's not like you need such a big house anyway. I forwarded that email to my attorney so fast my finger almost broke the screen. This morning, while the process servers were doing their job, I was in a meeting with the bank. Turns out Amelia had tried to open new credit cards in my name. The fraud department caught it and froze everything. The security cameras showed their reactions to the papers. Ellie ripping them up, not smart. We have copies. Anthony throwing things. Mia crying on the phone. Jeremiah pacing, looking genuinely worried for the first time. Then came the calls. First Amelia hysterical. How could you do this to your family? I let it go to voicemail. Ellie tried next. You have no idea who you're messing with. Actually I do. Jeremiah's call was different. No threats, just a quiet. Let's talk about this. There might be a way to resolve this privately. Too late for that. The last message was from Anthony. You think some papers will scare us? We've dealt with worse. That's when I sent them the final notice. They have 72 hours to vacate my property. After that, the sheriff gets involved. I also included a few choice clips from my security cameras, just so they know exactly what evidence I have. An hour ago my neighbor texted me. Moving trucks just showed up, they're packing like crazy. I'm still at my hotel, watching it all unfold on the cameras. Ellie is directing the chaos, but her hands are shaking. Jeremiah keeps checking his phone, looking nervous. Amelia sits on my couch, just staring into space. They thought I was weak, they thought I would run. Instead, I spent 3 days building an airtight case against them. Now they're the ones running, but it's not over yet. Tomorrow morning, I have another meeting, this time with federal investigators. Apparently, some of their previous property acquisitions crossed state lines. Final update. It's been 2 months since my last update. I've waited to post this because I wanted to see everything through to the end. What happened exceeded even my wildest expectations. The day after my last post, the federal investigators I mentioned launched their operation. It turns out they'd been building a case against my in-laws for years. My evidence was the final piece they needed. That morning, Ellie woke up to federal agents at her door. They had search warrants for every property she owned, all 6 of them, bought with money from previous scams. Simultaneously, other agents were knocking on Jeremiah's door. The look on their faces when they realized the scope of what was happening was priceless. My security cameras caught Ellie trying to flush documents down the toilet while agents waited in her living room. Amateur move. Remember those shell companies Jeremiah used? Each one led to another victim. In total, they'd scammed 12 families over 8 years, not just the 4 we knew about. Each case followed the same pattern: move in, isolate, pressure, take over. They'd perfected their technique with each new target. Anthony tried running when he saw the agents. He made it 3 blocks before they caught him right next to the storage unit where he'd stashed my stolen equipment. Not the smartest move, storing stolen goods under his own name. Mia broke first. Faced with losing custody of her kid, she told them everything. How they picked their targets, how they manipulated people, how they laundered the money. She even revealed scams we hadn't known about. But the real shock came from Amelia, when investigators showed her the evidence, including recordings of her plotting with her family. She didn't cry or apologize. Instead, she smiled and said, "You really think this will stick? We're smarter than you think." That smile didn't last long. The investigators had their own surprise. David wasn't their only previous victim who had come forward. 5 other families arrived at the courthouse that week, each with their own documentation. Years of evidence all pointing to the same group of people. The dominoes fell fast after that. Jeremiah was disbarred immediately. His involvement in multiple fraud cases across state lines earned him special attention from the authorities. Last I heard, he's looking at 15 to 20 years. Ellie's carefully built house of cards collapsed. Those 6 properties were all seized, and the money she'd hidden in offshore accounts was frozen. Her social circle vanished once people realized they might be investigated too. Anthony's theft of my equipment became the least of his problems when investigators found his laptop. It turns out he'd kept detailed records of every scam, thinking he was being clever. Those records implicated everyone, including extended family members we hadn't even known were involved. Mia got a lighter sentence in exchange for her cooperation, but she lost custody. Her ex-husband now has full custody of their child. Karma's interesting that way. The investigators found a storage unit rented under Amelia's name. Inside was everything they'd taken from their previous victims. Family heirlooms, documents, jewelry, they'd kept trophies. That discovery changed the whole scope of the investigation. Amelia didn't fare well in court. The judge was particularly interested in her emails detailing their plans. The divorce was finalized last week. She got nothing. The prenup I insisted on held up perfectly, especially after her documented attempt to defraud me. The restitution payments to previous victims have begun. Every property, every account, every asset they'd accumulated through their scams is being liquidated. David and the others will finally get justice. My house is currently undergoing a complete renovation. The deep cleaning crew found hidden cameras they'd installed to spy on me. They'd even started making copies of my keys. The level of violation still hits me sometimes. Last week, I got a letter from Amelia from her new temporary residence. She wrote that she never loved me, and that I was just another Mark Chosenbas, because I had a valuable property, and seemed easy to manipulate. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the letter to the investigators. It's now evidence item number 247. Yesterday, I saw a news article about their case. They're calling it one of the largest family-based fraud schemes in state history. Ellie's face made the front page looking a lot less smug in an orange jumpsuit. I'm back in my house now, the family photos are mine again, and the furniture is arranged the way I like it. The security system is state-of-the-art, and that prenuptial agreement I mentioned had a special clause about attempted fraud. My attorney says Amelia will be paying my legal fees for years to come. Sometimes I think about that day they laughed at me, calling me weak as I walked away. I wonder if they're still laughing now. To everyone who supported me through this, thank you. To anyone going through something similar, document everything. And to Ellie, if you ever read this from the prison library, who's weak now?